Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today we have Jesal Doshi on the show. Hey, Jesal, how are you?
Hey, Pant. Very well. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk to Jesal today. Jesal is the Deputy CEO of B Medical Systems. He's also the CEO of the B Medical Systems manufacturing capabilities in India as well. We'll be talking a lot about all of the things that this company is doing in terms of their refrigeration products in Europe and the US as well as in India. But before we get into the details on B Medical Systems, let's go through a little bit about your background, Jesal. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure, man. So I grew up in a typical middle-class Indian family with middle-class values, which I cherish deeply. And that's something I'm really proud of. I grew up, did my studies in India, worked for a few years in India in private equity, investing money in companies, building companies. Subsequently, I lived for a few years in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, doing the same, which is investing in companies across Southeast Asia, Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines. And then in about 2015, a very interesting opportunity came to me, which was to work for a company called B Medical Systems, which is far removed from what I was doing, which was essentially private equity is about making money at the end of the day. And
I would imagine your board might say that your job is still to make money, Jesal.
No, you're right, but I think B Medical Systems, at the core of what we do, it's all about saving lives.
Yes.
And that was something that really struck me, and I reflected on it and decided this is what I want to do, hopefully for the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And so, obviously, B Medical Systems is delivering very powerful solutions. Let's get into that. Tell us a little bit more about where B Medical Systems is playing a big role in and obviously the COVID-19 situation, but also refrigerated medical needs.
Absolutely. So, B Medical Systems is the world's oldest and the world's largest vaccine cold chain company. We are more than 4 decades old, and till date, we manufacture everything in Luxembourg, in the heart of Europe. So it's incredibly high quality, reliable, highly automated manufacturing facilities. But what we do is we make sure that each and every person, wherever he or she is in the world, gets access to a vaccine or a temperature sensitive medicine or biological, restored at the right conditions, transported at the right conditions. And of course, for you and I sitting in a big city, it seems simple. But when you think about a child in a remote village in Africa, or for example, an area infested by Boko Haram in Nigeria, or the mountains of Afghanistan, these are really difficult areas to reach. But you do have children there who need vaccines. With COVID, of course, the situation is way worse and much more alarming. But that's what we do. We make sure that every person who requires a medicine or a vaccine gets it anywhere in the world.
That's incredible. Tell us a little bit more about how that's been working during the pandemic. How have you worked with the different parties to make that possible?
Yes, the pandemic, of course, is brought about a huge set of challenges. When we look at the vaccination world, even till today, unfortunately, or even pre-COVID, the world was not entirely vaccinated. So you still had 1 out of every 5 children not getting all the vaccines they need. And you still had millions of children dying. What you've seen with the pandemic is that trend worsening, because the pandemic meant that a lot of vaccination campaigns stopped in many places around the world. There were many kids who did not get the basic vaccines that they should have got. So for us, of course, that meant much more responsibility to be able to deliver in those locations. At the same time, manufacturing in Europe, in the beginning, Europe was very badly hit as well. So to manage all our operations, make sure that we continued without any disruption was critical. For us, it's a matter of great pride, and also for all our employees, that we've not had a single day when we've had to shut down production. So we've kept running around the clock 24/7 since the pandemic began.
That's a great statistic. I would say that it's also even more impressive now. I know that you're spearheading the efforts in manufacturing in India. Tell us a little bit more about the worsening situation there with the pandemic, and how you are maintaining the manufacturing processes.
Yeah, well, it's actually been a very interesting journey for us. We were invited at the end of last year by none other than the Indian Prime Minister Modi to start manufacturing in India. So he realized that there was a critical need for high quality and reliable vaccine cold chain equipment. And in December, there was an invitation from him and the Indian government to us. I remember we made a trip to India at that time, along with the entire management team. And in December, in the midst of the pandemic, we traveled the length and breadth of the country. And we realized that indeed there was a huge need for what we do in the country. And very quickly, we decided to set up manufacturing. It gives me great pride that now already last week, we started commercial manufacturing of our products, which are, and just given the current situation of the country, unfortunately, as you know, it's creating a huge devastation all around the country.
Yeah.
And you have hundreds of thousands of lives, unfortunately, being lost. So the only way out of this pandemic is vaccination. And I think that's where I can see the vision of the Prime Minister in inviting us and us taking this up. And hopefully, I'll be very happy to play a part in ending the pandemic for my home country.
Yeah, no, and I can imagine the complexities, especially getting product to these kind of rural communities, and as you mentioned before, the real fight, the next fight for the pandemic is going to be in emerging markets in Africa, and how do we make sure that the vaccine that requires really kind of heavily refrigerated capabilities, how that works effectively. The amazing thing is that there have already been plenty of issues in major cities with refrigeration. One can only imagine the complexities that you guys are going to support as this gets rolled out into the next phase.
Absolutely, and I think already what you see in Europe and the US, for example, are huge challenges. You've seen millions of doses being thrown away because they were stored incorrectly at the wrong temperatures. And, to throw away a single dose right now potentially means that it could potentially mean the death of an individual.
Yeah.
So that's the value of a dose of vaccine right now. And the challenges are multifold as you go deeper into rural parts of many countries around the world. It's with COVID, the other peculiar challenge is you have different vaccines with very different temperature requirements. So you have a Pfizer vaccine, which needs to be stored at minus 80 degrees Celsius. And can you imagine, it's the middle of the Indian summer, it's 45 degrees Celsius outside and minus 80 inside. Yeah. And to maintain that with unreliable electricity in a remote location is a huge challenge.
Yeah, no, it's a huge challenge. I as you keep talking, I see all of the ways that everything could go terribly wrong. So, well, it's great that you guys are working on that. But perhaps on a more personal note, the last year has been challenging for a lot of us as we've been working through the pandemic and the changes in the work structures. just wanted to see how you're doing and how you and your friends and family have found joy through this whole process.
Yes, I think for me personally, and I'm pretty sure for each and every employee working in my company, joy has meant working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for a long time now.
Yeah.
But I think what we do see at the end of every day is the feeling of pride that yes, today we've helped save another few thousands of lives all over the world. And I think that's an incredibly powerful feeling when you see the amount of destruction that's happening all around the world. So it does give us a big glimmer of hope. And the fact that, we are playing a pretty active role in this.
Yeah.
I think other than that, of course, what I love about this situation is the amount of time you get to spend with family, because you are spending 18 hours a day working, but it's also working from home. And you do get, so what I guess I love the most is my 5-year-old sitting in my lap while I'm doing interviews like this.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Well, I think that the amount of time spent with family has been extremely valuable to people, and really important to keep people focused and able to move forward. Probably sometimes not focused, right? With the kids trying to do their schoolwork virtually and all of those fun challenges. But as we think about the next phase, and really where B Medical Systems plays a role in the next phase, in the next part of the solutions, not only for COVID, but other vaccine distribution as well as medical distribution that requires these refrigerated types of solutions. I mean, how do you imagine the next couple of years developing for you guys?
Yeah, I think the one big issue that COVID has thrown up, which most people don't realize at the moment, is the level of uh, pollution that COVID is creating and the level of unsustainable solutions. It's a lot of single-use boxes, styrofoam boxes, for example, XPS boxes, a lot of harmful liquids that are used for storage and refrigerants. And today, the whole world is focused on just getting a solution. I do believe over the next couple of years, people will start realizing that this is not sustainable. We need to also be environmentally friendly. Just sending extremely environmentally unfriendly boxes by air all the way around the world is not going to sustain. So I think for us as a company, it's important to lead that wave because we do believe in sustainability. All our solutions use environmentally friendly natural refrigerants, are reusable solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe personally that that will be the next big trend when it comes to temperature sensitive transportation and storage.
Yeah, I think clearly in a world where we still, no matter whether you are a kind of global warming believer or a global warming denier, the reality is that the planet's getting warmer no matter what. And so the idea of refrigerants, and especially for critical areas like the ones that you work with B Medical Systems, these are going to become problems that we're going to face over and over and over again over the next couple of years. I can only foresee the challenges. I think you've just raised a very, very important point, which is the sustainability of those solutions. It's very it's easy. I should say it's hard to react to a crisis effectively. It's hard to react to a crisis when it becomes the marathon, right? And I think that that's what you're referring to. That's a very, very good point. And I can only imagine that the solutions that B Medical Systems offers are only going to become more critical, more important, and certainly just on a personal note, I guess I can only thank you and your company for the work that you've been doing. I spend a ton of time in Europe and the US and all over the world. And so I'm really, really pleased to hear the work that you're doing. Jesal, it's been an incredible experience to have you on the program today. Tell us a little bit of how people can reach you and find out more about B Medical Systems.
Well, I'm pretty accessible on social media, so whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter, very easy to reach me. B Medical, our website is www.bmedicalsystems.com. And we do have a strong presence again on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and so on. And so very easy to reach me or the company anywhere in the world.
Great. Well, thank you again, Jesal, for being on Uncaged today. We've been speaking to the Deputy CEO of B Medical Systems. He's been talking to us about the solutions that they've been providing to fight COVID around the world to make sure that the medical solutions the vaccines get delivered and maintained in a refrigerated way. He outlined the daunting challenges of maintaining different vaccines in different ways in rural environments, and one can only imagine that the complexities that we have to still tackle over the next coming months and the next coming years. Again, Jesal, thank you so much for being on Uncaged.
Thank you, Ben. A real pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.